Hello friends and welcome to another episode of Everyone, let's do that again. Hello friends and welcome to Urban Homesteading with Professor DIY, moi, and Mrs. DIY behind the camera. We try and solve a problem that we think everyone has, regardless if your house is huge or you live in a small studio apartment, and that is having enough chairs, enough seating, right? Mm-hmm. A couple of weeks ago we built some chairs that were received very well. We received a lot of positive comments about that build. But today we're going to kick it up a notch, right?
Yep.
We're going to build a collapsible chair that when it is folded is about this wide, right? Mm-hmm. So you can store it easily. And then when it's open, it's a nice full-size chair.
Right.
So stick around. This is going to be a very good episode and you are still my favorite viewer. So this plus some screws is all the material we need, right?
Right.
These are 4 boards that they are 4x1. They're select pine. Mm-hmm. You could use 2x4 material, but we chose for this project not to, right?
Right.
We wanted a little more honest, and you need 6 hinges.
Yep.
Now we splurged a little on our hinges.
We did. We bought some really nice hinges.
But if you want to save some money, you can go to a lower level hinge, right?
Yeah, definitely utilitarian would be fine. But because this is furniture and it'll look a little nicer.
So total cost is still about $52. Mm-hmm. For the 4 boards. If you go with cheaper hinges and cheaper lumber, you can easily do this build for $25, right?
Yep.
You can half it easily. So, but for the way it is, it's $52. So now we're going to start showing you what we do. And on this build, I guess we're going to give dimensions. If someone wants to make the exact,
yeah,
because it's a reasonable project to make with these dimensions.
Yep. And obviously you could make it, more adjusted to your size. You could even scale it down significantly to make a child's chair.
Which is almost what we're building because as Mrs. DIY is a little short.
Hey.
So today, out of 4 boards, as we've shown you, and what else we bought, Mrs. DIY, and some hinges, we're going to build this wonderful chair. So we're going to make our first cut, and that will be on the back of our chair, and we want that to be 32 inches. We should be able to get 2 32-inch pieces out of that single board, right?
Yep.
And I guess in this build we'll give you the dimensions because that is pretty much what you will say. Most chairs are these dimensions.
Yeah.
I don't want to say universal because you know what happens if we say universal. Mm-hmm. The universal is not happy with us. Okay, even though unlike us, we did make plans for this build. We decided to make the back of the chair a little taller because we have the material, right? Mm-hmm. What will, if we cut it in 32, we'll have scraps that we cannot use for anything out of this board.
Right.
So we decided to go to what? To 34?
Yep.
So we're going to make the back a little taller. So switch your dimensions to 34.
There we go.
And this is your dimension. I know this is very helpful to everyone, right?
Right.
You can see our mark.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how can that not be helpful? And now we're going to make our first cut of the project of the day. When you use a miter saw, it is critical that both sides of your cut are very well supported in the back fence. Otherwise, your cut will actually not be straight but angled. That is another tip from... And then use the other board and we're going to cut it. We're going to cut both boards identical.
Identical.
We should have used our little jig so you didn't have any splintering.
No.
Okay, now all we're going to do now is cut the waist. And the way we do that, of course, is we align this edge to be flush, and then we touch the blade. You can cut. And make sure you're flush with it. Mm-hmm. Very good. A little bit of sanding because even though we made the jig last week, didn't we? We did not use it this week, and we should really for this because it will avoid any sanding on this area. But since we didn't, you need to touch the little hairs that the saw leaves. I don't know what the technical term is, do you? It's not really hair, but...
It's not hair, but it looks like hairs. Whiskers.
here on the top. All right. And then we will continue with our cuts.
Yep.
Perfect. So the boards we bought are 1x4, but we think that would be too chunky, too big for what we're building. So we're going to cut an inch off. We're going to make it a 1x3.
Yep.
So this is going to be the next step.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, and what we've got it set right now, is to set the distance from the blade with the fence to right on 3 inches.
And then lock your fence.
Yep.
And we're going to raise the... I think you need to be around again. I'm on the wrong side of the saw. Don't be on the wrong side of the saw if you want to use it. If you don't want to use it, be wherever you want.
Raise the blade, and we're going to raise it only enough to cut all the way through the piece, and no higher.
And not higher, so you won't cut your fingers.
Right.
One of the tools we have started using, and I really appreciate, is this device here that helps us hold the board tight against our fence and ensures a very nice clean cut, right?
Yep.
So this is the second board. We are going to rip the third board as well, and then the fourth board will make our sheet.
Yep.
So we rip both of our boards, and we have them both here. To minimize the cut, we're going to cut them both at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Each of those boards will give us one side of the chair, in essence.
Right.
So what we have done here, what we have arranged is 16 inches, which is actually the width of our chair. And we've made a mark here. Mm-hmm. And we're going to make 2 cuts of those 16 inches, which will give us all the 16 pieces we need.
Right.
And then we're going to make 2 11 inches cuts. And that will give us all the material we need for the sides, right?
Yep.
So the seat depth is 16 inches and the height of the seat is 17. And if you put like a cushion or something, that can get a little higher. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get cutting. And now Mrs. DIY will use one of those pieces to mark the next cut, right? Mm-hmm. Again, remember, reliability is better than accuracy here, right? As long as all the pieces are the same dimension, if we're an eighth off, it makes no real difference. So this way we don't have to measure and remeasure. Every time you measure, you have the opportunity to make a mistake. So measuring is not a good idea. And now we simply reset and we cut our 11 pieces, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's the same process. We're going to make one mark at 11 inches and then we're going to cut all the boards. And we shall return. So this is one of the sides. They're identical. They need 4 pieces. And you see we have 4 more pieces here, which are identical to this. And a couple of things. The way we assemble it, this is the top and bottom, right? And we assemble it that way because all the pressures will not stress the joint. Mm-hmm. If we assemble it this way, the pressure will want to bring this joint down. That makes sense?
Yep.
So I like to engineer things in a certain way because I'm weird. And it's a good idea to make sure that you are square, and we are pretty square here. Yep, pretty perfect actually.
Okay.
We are going to use pocket screws for this. Again, we don't necessarily need strength in this joint because all the pressure will be downwards. The only strength with this is when we open it and close it. So the pocket screws will be more than adequate strength for that.
Okay.
And do you want to put glue on the joints or not?
I mean, I always prefer to make it a little bit stronger if we can, but I'm open.
And do you want to know, do you have a preferred side for inside and outside?
I'll have to take a look at it.
Okay, take a look at it. So last week we got egg on our face, right? Because we forgot to set our Craig and we went through our holes.
Yep.
Which was a very stupid mistake. We have used the Craig many, many times. So here's how you set any Craig. You will have a setting that relates to where you actually make the pocket holes, the piece which you make the pocket holes. In this case, it will be this piece. And here you put the thickness of that piece. In our case, it's 3/4, right?
Yep.
And then on the drill bit, you put the thickness of the piece you're going in. And in this case, again, for us, it's 3/4.
Yep.
So you set this correctly, and you should have a painless experience.
Aha.
At least that's the story, right?
Right.
So we're going to do that. I'm not sure I understand why it doesn't go through. This time it did. All right. And again, the only trick is when you dig it out, just flip it, right?
Yep.
Don't go on the other side. It
Yeah,
will not-
because one side is inside the piece and the other side is the outside of the piece, and you don't want them opposing.
Right, because then you're going to cry.
Definitely.
The only other thing you need to be you need to pay attention to when you use pocket holes is the length of the screw.
Right.
Because you don't want it to go clear through your material, right?
Correct.
Behind every pocket screw box, there is a table that tells you, based on the dimensions we have, it is 3/4.
Your material is 3/4, and on the other side of the table, the screw length corresponding is 1 1/4.
So we have 1 1/4 screws, and we are ready to assemble. When you align pocket screw holes, sometimes they have the tendency to move the board a little bit, right? The best clamp is this Craig clamp that keeps everything together, aligned, and as you can see, we have a perfectly flat area here.
Yep, it's really good. And it just really holds the joint together until you can get the screws all the way in.
And we have a very nice joint, as you can see.
Yeah, it's like making cabinets.
Yeah, it's exactly like my cabinet. This could be a cabinet door, right? All right, we'll finish with the pocket holes and we'll be right back with you. So we have one of the sides of the chairs done. And as you can see on this side, you see absolutely no connections. This is what will be most visible on the chair. On the back side, you have the pocket screws. And they don't bother us because this is not like a dining room chair.
Right.
But if they do bother you, you can put plugs
Yep.
to hide them. I don't care for that. I don't think it's necessary.
For this project especially, it's not going to be necessary, or, it's just more work.
Or if it bothers you, do it. I mean, it is your project after all, right? For us, we just want to give you the option. And as you can see, this is very strong because the weight will be where I put my hands now, my arms now, right? So the weight will never put stress on this joint. The stress goes directly through the piece of wood to the ground, right? So this is plenty of strong joint. But you can see what I was saying earlier. If you were to put weight this way, potentially you might weaken the joint over time.
Right.
Right now it's still very strong, but over time, just details of how we did things so you know, right? So the correct orientation again is like that. And if you get confused, your dimensions will give you that because the dimensions are 17. So the longest, no, what did we say? Yeah, the longest piece has to go on top and bottom, right?
Right.
And the shortest ones go right and left. We're going to do the other one exactly the same way. We'll be back with you. So we've assembled the back and we'll put the hinges in one side of the folding chair. Now the problem is that when the other side folds, if it was attached to on the same plane, it wouldn't fold, right? because so we need to elevate it by the same dimension as the thickness of this board. So we use a piece of scrap. We are going to cut it the same dimension, which also happen to be this dimension here, right? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. So then when it falls, it will be on top of this. All right, so the next step is to rip this and attach the hinges. So one of the things we're doing now is we raise the blade just above the height of our material, and now we're checking that the inside of our blade is exactly on our mark. And I don't know if it's visible there, but it is. See our mark right there?
Yep.
So we know we have the right dimension, and now we're going to make a rip cut. You want to do it or you want to do it? Look right on the line. Look at that. Push it. Excellent. And I think we're going to do a dry fit first, right? But I think we're right on the line. Definitely we're right on our line, right?
Okay.
So here is our next piece that's going to attach to the back, and we're going to attach our hinges to this piece, right? Now we need to make sure that it operates correctly. One side opens and closes, as you can see. So the next step will be our hinges. So our next step is we're going to attach the hinge to the extra piece, and then we are going to attach the extra piece to the back. That doesn't make sense right now. It will make sense in a moment. Right, ladies?
Yep.
All right? And the hinges can be flat right now. Very good. We'll need to help here to make sure that the hinges do not move, but we're going to show you the end result. How many hands can we fit in the frame?
As many as we need.
So we have attached the hinges to our extra piece, and now we're going to attach the piece to the chair back. But because of the dimension of that small piece, we are going to use pilot holes to ensure that we do not do any damage. Why you don't do it the way it is? Okay, attach those screws so that it will be secure. operate it now to see it closes. And operate the other one to make sure it opens. Okay. So things seem to be working right now, right?
So far.
Two more screws. And this piece is small, but it will not really carry weight. The weight is carried by the actual chair part, right? The actual frame. The hinges don't carry any weight, and those screws don't carry any weight that we're using now. They come here. Excellent. Now you see a general idea. You open each side, and we're going to create the seat now that goes in between them, right?
Yeah.
And that is a chair, ladies and germs. Very good. Let's work on the top. So now finally it looks like a chair, as you can see, right? We have to put the spacing, and then we're going to put two ledger boards underneath, one on each side, right? And we're going to initially brad nail them to keep it together, and then we're going to use screws to keep it more secure, right? Because we need these to operate as one piece. All right, let's mark these and cut them on the saw. So mistakes were made. This side has to be shorter by 3/4 because, as you can see here, we added 3/4 here, right? So we need to take it apart in this area and shorten it. I guess what we need to do is take this apart, right? Okay. Despite our impeccable planning, we failed to account for one detail, right? So we're telling you so you will not make the same mistake as we did. When you cut the doors, make sure you don't cut the wrong one. A little tip we want to give you is using a combination countersink and drill at the same time, right? There are also independent ones, just this part that you can countersink, but that way your screws are well under the surface and minimizes even more. Pilot holes minimize the chance of splitting, but it can still happen, right? This is an extra step that can make splitting even less likely, even though you can never say for sure.
Okay.
Okay, with our seat ready, we now have a chair. The last part will be to attach two hinges so that the seat can raise and lower and operate thusly. Would you like the thusly?
Thusly.
Thusly. Okay, let's work on the... So we're done with the build, and it is exactly what we wanted. We're very happy with it. But there are two small issues that we didn't think of, right? The first one is we want some way to prevent this from happening. By accident, someone kicks it and the chair now is not steady. And the other, as you can see, this works beautifully, but doesn't want to stay there, right? So we're going to do the unusual step of going to Walmart, not the hardware store today, and find some hardware to make this stay up there and the two sides stay next to each other. So we're back with some hardware, and this is just a method to protect your chair from opening under you accidentally, right?
Right, it keeps the legs closed.
Okay. Excellent. So we're using a box, really. This is designed for a box, but this is all we have right now. We might later replace it with a more appropriate device, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what you have to do is do one screw on this, if you cannot do both at the same time. But so we're going to use the tiny screws that come with it. Keep in mind that doesn't need a lot, it won't get a lot of pressure. All it does is helps it from moving, right?
Right. These are very tiny and difficult to handle.
I'm not using the motor. Hold on. So we are done with our project for today. And this is our chair. We've added a clasp on top and two, I don't know what to call it, claspy things on the bottom. And what those do is prevent the chair from opening by accident, you know. So in order to close the chair, you just and now it is ready for stowing. Okay? Alright, ladies, what was the hardest part of the build?
I think the hardest part of the build for me was to figure out attaching the hinges in the right orientation and in the right space to allow for this to close correctly.
Okay. And we found out that there were 2 hinges per package, so our cost actually dropped to $47 from $52. No, even less actually.
Yeah, it dropped by another
So what we said in the beginning was technically wrong, because when we bought the hinges, we thought it was a hinge per package, and there were 2 hinges per package. So this is a low to mid 40s project as cost as concerned. Is it intermediate, beginner, or advanced?
I think it could be between beginner and intermediate.
And any other comments you have, ladies?
No, I think it's really going to be something nice to have around, especially when we're in need of another seat where we don't have one. And, you know, we could definitely build another one so that we can have 2 extra seats. But it was meant for slim storage, so it doesn't take up a lot of space.
Yep. So friends, this is our project for today. This is a chair that takes little space when it is stowed, and yet provides with a lot of utility if you need it, right? After we installed the hardware, I realized that we could use a dowel, right? And not have hardware dowel through here. So we can open and close the chair, and the chair will not open accidentally. And we might remove the hardware and utilize the dowel, I don't know. We'll see. Well, if you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the other button twice. Share, like, subscribe. Let us know. Do you like episodes like this? From Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida, let's build something to sit down together.